All right, welcome everybody, and if you're returning, welcome back. So today what I'm going to be talking about is liver recovery. I'm going to be taking a traditional Chinese medicine approach so you'll understand have a basic understanding of how to repair your liver physically and energetically. So without further ado, let's get started. So I like to consider the liver to be the star of detox and metabolism. The liver is in charge of producing plasma proteins, which is really important for overall body function. Some examples of these plasma proteins are albumin, which is important for the osmotic blood pressure of the body. Another is fibrinogen, which is in charge of clotting for the body, the clotting factor. So people that deal with or have thin blood or deal with hemorrhaging, which is excessive bleeding, it is important for because they need that clotting factor to stop the bleeding and stop the injury and actually allow it to heal up. Another is immunoglobulins, which is a key player in the immune system. And these are just a couple examples of these plasma proteins that the liver produces. Another function of the liver is to metabolize proteins, break down and manufacture proteins. A byproduct of this whole process of metabolizing the proteins is ammonia, which in itself is toxic for the body. But the liver, being the amazing organ that it is, it has a way of breaking down this ammonia into another form in order for the body to excrete it out without any harm being done. And the byproduct of ammonia, which is as the result of the metabolizing the proteins, is uric acid. Uric acid is filtered by the kidneys and excreted via the bladder. But if the liver and the kidneys, which is why the kidney should be supported as well whenever you're dealing with trying to repair the liver, because the liver and the kidneys work hand in hand, and we'll discuss that later in this video. If the uric acid is not disposed of, and that can be as a result of the liver not being in proper alignment, the liver not functioning well, or the kidneys not functioning well, uric acid will be dispersed into the body and it won't be disposed of properly. Symptoms of this can be conditions like gout, which is when uric acid crystals are concentrated in the joints and can turn into a mild form of arthritis and can be very painful for people that deal with it. It causes inflammation and also causes joint rigidity, which can be very painful for people, that have physical jobs or just even just to walk around. Another form of improper uric acid excretion is kidney stones themselves. Kidney stones are clusters of focused uric acid that concentrate and pile up in the kidneys themselves that can be very painful to pass and also can throw off the whole balance of the kidneys themselves. So it's very important for these processes that the liver carries out to be maintained and paid attention to. Another function of the liver is to detox the blood from drugs, hormones, and alcohol. Also to store and redistribute the purified blood. So the liver itself does store blood. As blood filters through the liver takes out all the impurities and stores the blood that has been purified. The impurities are then transformed into bile. And bile, if you don't know, is used for further digesting your food after it's been passed through the stomach, broken down in the stomach, turned into chyme, and then transported into the small intestine, and where the gallbladder then releases the stored bile into the small intestine to further break down the foods. The liver uses the toxins that it has taken out of the blood to create this bile. So the body is, once again, very resourceful, and the liver is amazing in its processes that it does. Another function that the liver does is to store vitamin A, D, E, and K, iron, and other nutrients like this for whenever the body demands it. Another function is to store glucose and glycogen. So glucose is used for sugar, but you can consider glucose the actual sugar unit that is used in different processes and actually to burn energy. Glycogen is the form that glucose is stored into or changed into so it can be stored in the body. So another function is to heat the blood. As the liver stores the blood and purifies the blood, friction creates heat. Action excites. And so excitation causes heat as well. So all these chemical reactions and all this action taking place in the liver causes it to be naturally hot and heated. So when the blood is stored in there, it is heated by the action and processes around it. So therefore, when the blood is distributed into the body from the liver, it carries that heat with it, maintaining the body's natural temperature, natural environment. Another function is to store and manufacture and distribute cholesterol. So yes, the liver manufactures and stores and redistributes cholesterol. So people that deal with high cholesterol and have or high cholesterol related conditions definitely need to pay attention to the liver. The way this happens is as the liver manufactures this cholesterol, it distributes low density proteins or low density lipoproteins, LDL, or VLDL, which is very low density lipoproteins. Both of them are distributed out into the bloodstream. They're considered bad cholesterol because they're the cholesterol that can hang out inside of the body. And if too much cholesterol, being the sticky, fatty substance it is, when it's hanging out in the body, it can stick to different arteries, it can stick to different cells, causing cholesterol buildup, which can also turn into different other diseases like atherosclerosis or cholesterol building up in your veins, causing vascular constriction and stopping the flow of blood, which can also turn into many other different conditions that are not healthy for the body. So that's why LDL is considered bad cholesterol, because it's the cholesterol that's distributed into the body but not really being transported back to the body, which is considered HDL. Therefore, it has the potential to be clogged up and stopped up and stick to different organs and whatnot. So HDL, which is high density lipoproteins, which is the fat molecules, which is cholesterol, these lipids that are packed together. The high density lipoproteins are those molecules that are small and don't have that many lipids in them, but more proteins in them, and are transported back to the liver to be manufactured into other forms. The reason HDL is considered good cholesterol is because it has the least amount of lipids, which are fats, and a more higher amount of protein, so therefore it has a less probability of being stuck and causing blockages and buildup in different parts of the body, and it's also being transported back to the liver, so therefore it has a destination that it's going back to where the processing facility is. So that's why HDL is considered good protein, because it's not hanging out, it has a low amount of lipids and fat, and it's going back to the processing house, so it's not considered a threat. And the liver is in charge of all of these functions. So once again, the liver is the star for detox and metabolism, which is why it needs to be maintained, it needs to be taken care of, so all the rest of the body functions can function properly. So with the liver, you also have to understand that emotional imbalances and psychological imbalances can also throw off physical conditions. So even though something that you're doing or your organ systems can be physically nourished, if you're not mentally nourished or mentally balanced, if you're not emotionally stable, these energies in motion, which when you're experiencing them, cause different hormones and different chemicals to be released in the body, because that's how the body gives you the nutrients to deal with certain things, can throw off the body's balance themselves. It can throw off the body's balance because once these chemicals are released in the body and they're not being used in the proper way, or they're just sitting inside of a supposed to be balanced system, they can throw off that balance. So according to traditional Chinese medicine, the emotion associated with the liver is anger. The element associated with the liver is wood, and the season is spring. So with anger not being in balance, the hormones that are produced, right here you can see listed, catecholamines like epinephrine, which is adrenaline, cortisol, which is known as the stress hormone, dopamine, which is associated as a happy hormone, but it's produced because when anger is imbalanced and people have those angry fits or whatnot, sometimes people can feel a sense of validation from that for whatever reason. Say if someone's angry and they're dominating everything in in their environment, or they're just dominating everybody, sometimes people can get a sense of satisfaction over that. And that's that dopamine that's produced that can give them some sense of dominance, some sense of power over the situation and everyone around them. Also, hormones like testosterone are associated with anger, which is a very a yang type of energy, a yang type of hormone, which is a very outgoing, very action-oriented hormone. So these are some hormones that are associated and released when anger is not controlled. And when anger is not controlled, it can cause many different imbalances. Also, just poor decision making. in general. So when you're dealing with the liver, you're going to want to make sure that your emotions and your psychological functions are in check, because a lot of the time emotions like anger or irritability or just irritation or resentment can be being dealt with, and people overlook it because they're not really informed or aware that these can be side effects of their liver being imbalanced. So if you were to talk about the energetic balance for that, if you're dealing with anger and you're dealing with frustrations, which actually could arise from feeling stuck in life, feeling like you don't have a plan in life, feeling like there's no vision, or feeling like the situation that you're in is hopeless, many different reasons that anger could arise from, or your work situation or your family situation is causing you to be stressed. What they say to balance that out is patience. So in order to quell the many different manifestations of anger, are to apply the virtue of patience. Because if you can't change your situation, or if you're dealing with a situation that is irritable, or if you're angry about something, before you run off and act irrationally, or you run off and do something that you may regret, or you're noticing that you're starting to push everyone away, or you're starting to take harmful action towards others or situations that you're dealing with yourself because you're angry, sit down, take a breath, practice patience, and understand that when you apply that, you'll have the mental grounds and the emotional stability to carry out your actions properly without damaging your situations yourselves. Now, getting into the imbalances of the liver. The main imbalances that give rise to many other imbalances that you may face are liver stagnancy, liver deficiency, and liver heat. Liver stagnation is when too much food is consumed or too much toxic food is consumed, such as greasy, sugary, or dairy foods or processed foods, foods that are not generally good for you and break down into sludge and not digestible or even healthy to store in the body type substances. When you eat too many of these foods, or you eat too much food in general, the liver becomes overwhelmed and sluggish. The liver ensures proper flow of regulation of qi, which is fluid nourishment via blood in the body. The liver is known as the distributor of qi. Blood is known to carry the qi of the body. And for Westerners, Western medicine don't really acknowledge this energetic aspect of the body. The qi is known as the life force energy. And it can definitely be seen in manifestations, but it can't really be measured or looked at or put under a microscope. The best way to look at qi energy, or yang, strong yang energy, is to look at the vitality of a person. Look at the glow, the vigor of a person. And a good way to explain it, as some of you have may heard, is if you look at a child and look at their skin glowing, look at how nourished their skin looks, look at how happy they are, they're laughing, they're loud, they're running around and playing. That's a sign of healthy qi. That's a sign of good yang energy. But if you were to look at an elderly person who's sitting down, who's fairly stiff, who's not really speaking much, and when they speak really soft. Or if you call their name and they look at you and they turn slowly and look at you, their eyes aren't as vibrant. That's a signal or a sign of low qi or low yang energy. And it's just a symbol, like a sign of life inside of a person, the life energy of a person. And the blood is said to carry the qi. So the blood will be the material aspect, or the yin aspect, and the energy of it, the life force of it, the vigor, the juice of it, the glow of it will be considered the qi, or the yang part of it. And even like there is a reference to this in the Bible in Leviticus 17:11 when it says the life is carried in the blood. So when the flow of qi is backed up, or when the flow of the liver is backed up and the liquids and juices are not flowing properly or being excreted properly, qi cannot flow either. Blood cannot properly flow throughout the body either. Therefore, the nutrients and the life is not distributed inside or throughout the body as good as it should be, therefore causing problems and causing other symptoms to arise. When stagnation is the issue that you're dealing with in the liver, it also causes problems for the pancreas, the spleen, the gallbladder, kidneys, and the bowels. The liver is also in charge of the tendons and the muscles. So whenever you have stagnancy, which also means that things are not flowing properly, things are sluggish and backed up, so it's hindering the process that would naturally be flowing smoothly, the muscles will become weak. And the eyes, which are also a manifestation of the health of the liver, or the health of the wood element, which is the liver and the gallbladder, the eyes will be either become swollen, the eyes will become discolored, or the eyes will become irritated. Ways to deal with liver stagnancy, because all it is really is eating too much of bad foods or eating too much food in general. And therefore, when you stuff something too much, it'll become backed up. If you put too much food in a garbage disposal, it'll probably stop up. So, ways to repair liver stagnancy is to consume healthy foods. You can consume raw foods, but you have to be aware of consuming raw foods, because in cases of liver stagnancy, the bowels can also suffer and become inflamed and have many different imbalances, because with the liver being in charge of bowel or of bile and being stopped up and stagnant, bowel will not be as abundant as it needs to be for the GI tract to work properly. And if the GI tract has not been working properly for too long, you can also have weak bowels, which will have to be taken care of as well. So raw foods can be eaten for people with generally healthy bowels. But if you don't have healthy bowels, or if you notice you have gastrointestinal problems, you will want to go towards cooked foods, because cooked foods are already further broken down and easier to digest. So also foods you will want to go towards is like leafy greens and sprouts. These foods stimulate the liver. Another process you could take for repairing this condition is consuming lots of vitamin C and the B vitamins, and especially folic acid, because they're great for repairing not only your eyesight, but also great for making the skin more, not skin, but making the tissue more elastic, and also giving it the nutrients to repair itself. Vitamin C helps prevent oxidative stress during inflammatory conditions, which helps prevent the buildup of fat, and also increase glutathione, which is produced in the liver, which is great. It's a very strong antioxidant, which is what is needed in situations of inflammation and swollen conditions that stagnancy will create. The B vitamins, especially vitamins B6, B9, and B12, are very essential for the liver metabolism and healing. One of the other practices you can do is when the bowels are in bad condition, of course, consume cooked foods and eat like when you're making the food. Don't cook the food too much. Lightly cook it at high temperatures. So if you had leafy greens that you wanted to put into your stew or your soup, and you wanted to pre-cook them first, put it at a high temperature. Use very healthy oils. You can use hazelnut oil, avocado oil, ghee, and things like this, and cook it for a short amount of time at a high temperature, so you don't destroy the nutrients that is in it already. And consume only healthy oils when you're eating these foods. Also, fasting. Since your liver stagnancy is a condition of excess, you want to make sure that you fast, so you have you're not throwing more pressure on what's already compacted and slowing down the body. So therefore, you want to practice fasting. During the day, you want to drink a lot of liquids. You want to drink a lot of fluids. You want to eat your last meal. Make your last meal the biggest meal. And before that, you really just want to really fill up on liquids and whatnot. But make sure you don't eat past 7 or 6 p.m. because the wood element and also the liver and the gallbladder go into repair and go into hyper regeneration around the times of 11 p.m. through 3 p.m. 3 a.m. in the morning. So 11 p.m. through 3 a.m. in the morning is when the liver and the gallbladder are really repairing themselves. So if you eat anything too late in the night, they're not going to have the energy to repair themselves, because they're still breaking down and producing what needs to be produced for the food to be broken down and absorbed. You need to give them time to heal themselves. You need to give them a break. So you don't want to eat anything past 6 or 7. So it can give it the time to actually heal, the time that it needs. The nutrients that you really want to focus on that will really help this condition and any damage that might be caused by this condition are potassium, sodium, calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, and selenium. So as far as symptoms, when liver stagnancy is the issue, some of the telltale signs are weak tendons and weak muscles. The liver governs the tendons in the eyes, and when the key is stagnant, well, in a way deficient because of excess, the tendons are not moistened and the blood is making them, and they're very inflamed. The blood is supposed to nourish them and moisten them. So if they're not getting the blood that they need because of the liver is backed up and not producing its functions properly, you'll start to feel weak tendons. They'll be easily to tear. They'll feel more pain instead of just working out or stretching. You notice that your body becomes more rigid and more stiff. Also, muscle weakness. You'll notice that you can't perform the actions or the activities that you do normally because you have a general feeling of weakness in your muscles and your tendons. Also, since the eyes are the manifestation of the liver, you'll notice that your eyes, the vessels in your eyes become swollen, irritated, or discolored, like we said earlier, because certain fluids and also nutrition is not reaching the eyes. And if you notice, the eyes have tendons around them, which is how you have your eye movements. And once again, the liver and the gallbladder, aka the water element, being in charge and governing the muscles and the tendons, your eyes will definitely show signs of deficiency or excess, aka imbalance. Also, impure blood, because the liver is in charge of the blood storage, glycogen storage, and blood purification. If the liver is congested, it cannot function properly, therefore the blood will not be purified either. The release of toxins will be evident because they won't be cleaned out, the blood won't be pure in its storage state. So this can also cause acne, it can cause eczema, it can cause carbuncles, boils, allergies, and general body acidosis. Because when the blood is not purified, those toxins are carried and distributed back into the body, which is not good. It can give rise to many other situations. In severe cases, toxic blood can actually feed even worse conditions like arthritis, cancer, and tumors. Because impure blood or dirty blood it creates the environment for these diseases and complications to thrive. So, some of the foods that we'll go over to eat during liver stagnation. The main foods you want to eat for general, like overall liver health, are sour foods and bitter foods. Sours in particular impact the liver the most. It causes contraction, aka astringency, drying and firming up the tissues. This can prevent and reverse abnormal leakage and fluids of energy. Sour foods are also useful for urinary dripping, excessive perspiration, hemorrhaging, diarrhea, and weak and saggy tissues like atony, weak tissues, flaccid skin, hemorrhoids, and uterine prolapse, and things of this condition. Because the sour food, if you look at a warhead and it's a very sour candy, it has the person like puckering their lips and sucking in their cheeks, aka showing that it's really sour. And if you think about that, the sourness of food causes skin to firm up. It causes skin to tighten up. So for weak and saggy tissues, usually that are a byproduct of edema, which is fluid in certain tissues, or if the tissues have just become weak and untonified because of a malnourishment or a lack of use, these sour foods are a good way to jumpstart that firming up of those tissues. So generally, sour foods are like hawthorn berry, lemon, lime, pickles, rose hips, foods like sauerkraut, sour apples, sour plums, and leeks. Some other foods that are sour, but kind of like sour on the sweet side, but still have the sour astringent effect, are apples, of course, blackberries, grapes, mangoes, olives, raspberries, sourdough bread. Sourdough is actually one of the best types of bread you can eat because it has a natural process of baking. It doesn't need all the additives to rise. So also it has, based on the process of it being made, it contains certain bacteria that are good for the gut. Tangerines and tomatoes. But you have to be cautious because people that are suffering from general conditions of like dampness, which is like if you were to look at it in the mental aspect, like heaviness of mind, or heaviness of mind and body, you want to limit the sour consumption that you eat, like the sour foods, because they could also inhibit different body processes like absorption inside of the gut. Because if you're dealing with dampness also, we'll discuss in the video in depth, but dampness inside of the gut is, you got to think about like a swamp. If the water is not fluid, it can't really flow. And if you got to think about mud as well, like mud is really gunky. It stops up stuff, and it's considered damp. It's not wet and flooding, but it's clogged up, built up in damp. So that's actually a condition that you have to be very aware of when you're dealing with these things. And eating sour foods when you're dealing with conditions of dampness can actually slow down and stop the absorption of certain nutrients that you need, because the bowels and the body is not flowing and things are not being processed and moved out in a proper way. Since these things are already clogged up, you already have different parts of your bowels not absorbing, and then on top of that, if you're eating too many sour foods, which causes astringency, certain avenues that nutrients are absorbed in will be pinched shut, they will be firmed, and they won't be absorbing certain foods and certain nutrients that you need. So in a way, sourness can cause an adverse effect of the liver as it constricts, when sometimes you need things to be open to be absorbed. Another food that is good for you to eat are the bitters, because bitters, they act kind of like sours, but they have more of a purgative effect. They cause contraction as well, but they're more like purging and allow things to be pushed out. It encourages energy to descend downward in the body and move out. It also has an antipyretic effect by nature. Therefore, it's good for conditions of heat, like fever and inflammation. There's often conditions that people deal with when they're dealing with liver stagnancy, and that's damp heat. And damp heat is basically, when we're talking about dampness, how it has like a muddy effect and a caking, clogging up effect in the bowels. Damp heat is when inflammation starts to occur, and their body tends to be a little hot as well. So when you have dampness, which is clogging and backing up, and also heat, it really gives rise to a lot of inflammatory conditions, and it can damage the intestinal walls. It can damage the organs where this dampness and heat is building up. So that's another thing you have to really be cautious of, and that's something that liver stagnancy can cause, since the liver is already a hot organ. So the byproduct of that can really be damp heat, which is a condition that a lot of people deal with, but can be reversed and can be repaired through cooling foods, but you have to really be aware of it. So being great for damp conditions, they also are great for people with candida, yeast overgrowth, parasites, heavy mucus buildup, swelling, abscesses, tumors, cysts, and like situations of obesity, and also accumulation of edema in the intestines and the flesh of the body. The bitter flavor of it also, the bitter flavors of these foods also increase peristalsis. And what peristalsis is the natural movement of the bowels of the waste matter out of the body. Bitters kickstart this process. It's a purging process. You think about belching, or you think about vomiting. Think about this in the organs. It causes the constriction, kind of like sour, but the bitter taste of it is what causes the purging in the body to actually push the stuff out. So it's great for stagnation, as it quells heat conditions, and also helps with the damp mucoid deposits of cholesterol and fats that generally lower blood pressure. So the kidneys and the lungs are tonified by this bitter flavor as well. It keeps them like the vitality of the organs going, because the bitters have that purging effect, so things don't get clogged up and the fluids and the filtration is running smoothly. People that benefit from bitter flavors are usually like slow, overweight, lethargic, and like watery people. These people, if you are familiar with Ayurvedic medicine, which is Indian medicine, this body type is kapha, or water body type, and these are generally like the heavy body type people, people that retain a lot of water, and people that tend to produce a lot of mucus in their system. Bitters are great for these people because it keeps the body purging out what they need. And as you can, if you put two and two together, heavy water retaining, mucus producing people probably deal with conditions like dampness and damp heat a lot. So they're going to need that extra push to get the waste matter out. Individuals who are overheated and aggressive, bitters have a cooling nature. The energetic aspect of bitters are yin in nature and also cooling as well. So in Ayurvedic medicine, Indian medicine, hot people are considered pitta, or fire people, and they generally have very strong digestive systems. Their body system, or their body habitus, is usually like really fit. They're like in between, like really thin and really big, so they're like average sized people that tend to be very athletic and have really good digestive systems. But with kapha people, or pitta people, or generally hot people, they tend to deal with situations of aggression and like really hot conditions like inflammation and stuff like that. So bitters are really good for them as well, as it keeps the heat and the heat produced by the body at a minimum. It quells the heat. So people that are deficient, weak, and thin
in Ayurvedic medicine, they're considered vata, which are air people. They tend to be very thin and very dry people. Like their skin is dry, their insides are usually dry, which is good for them to stay hydrated. People that are very thin or vata in nature need to use bitters very sparingly because it can cause them to purge out essential fluids that they need, them being very dehydrated people by nature. So bitters in general that you can use and eat are bitter melons. That's really popular in traditional Chinese medicine. Some people eat it just naturally, but it's really used as like as a remedy in foods and medicines to add that bitter attribute to certain medicines because it's an extremely bitter fruit. Bitter lemon, and it's kind of similar to bitter melon, but it's yellow in color. Bitter melon being green, bitter lemon is yellow in color with the same kind of outside texture as bitter melon. But it's popular in the Jamaican areas. It's popular down in Florida in the southern areas. It's very bitter as well, and it's good for the same functions. Alfalfa, romaine lettuce, mustard greens, rye, vinegar, radish leaf, citrus peel like orange peel, lemon peel, lime peels, and white pepper are generally good bitter foods that you can eat that have that purgative effect. Some bitter foods that kind of have sweet flavor to them but still have somewhat of a bitter effect are foods like quinoa, asparagus, celery, amaranth, papaya, and turnips. So these foods are somewhat sweeter, but they still have somewhat of a bitter purging effect. And all of them are cooling in nature. So when you're dealing with stagnancy, which sometimes gives way to liver heat because of the swelling and inflammation that comes from being backed up, cooling foods are what you need to eat to keep the body's inner environment cooled down and keep it from overheating. So here's some more foods that are good to consume as far as veggies: beetroot, cauliflower, broccoli, artichokes, mushrooms of various types, pretty much all the types of onions and leeks. Some greens to eat, really good greens, cooling greens to eat are cabbage, seaweed, microgreens, alfalfa and broccoli sprouts, spinach, collard greens, Brussels sprouts and watercress. Legumes that are good to eat and beans that are good to eat are like black beans, kidney beans, lima beans, pinto beans, lentils, and fava beans. Walnuts, almonds, Brazil nuts, hemp seeds, and pumpkin seeds are good organic protein to eat. Fish that are good to eat are wild salmon, sturgeon, tuna, cod, mackerel, and you want to eat those sparingly because they are proteins, and depending on your system, they cause the digestive system to work the hardest. So if you're dealing with situations like liver stagnancy and liver heat, you want to kind of limit these type of macro proteins because they can cause your system to back up too. You don't want to eat them. You don't want to eat them in excess. Other sours that are good, sours and bitters that are good to eat are sauerkraut, miso, and kimchi. Great fruits for this condition to eat are blackberries, raspberries, cranberries, blueberries, thimbleberries, huckleberries, pomegranate, grapes, bananas, red apples, lemons, limes, and cherries. The thing about these fruits is they contain this an acid called ellagic acid and resveratrol, and these are nutrients that are really known for cell regeneration and repair. So I left out meats because when you're dealing with these conditions, once again, meats and proteins make the body work the hardest in digestion. They have the longest digesting times. And when you're dealing with liver stagnancy and liver heat, you don't want anything to slow down digestion or cause any type of baggage or backup in heat conditions, because meats can be very heating when they can cause a very hot environment when they're being broken down. Generally, good foods to consume that'll help with the regeneration process of the liver are foods like chlorella. Chlorella improves liver's enzymes levels like ALT, alanine transminase, which is known for helping the liver convert proteins into energy for the cells, and AST, which is aspartate aminotransferase, and that's helpful for metabolizing those amino acids. Wild blue-green algae, which is high iron, protein, and essential minerals, highly cleansing and healing for the liver. It also can improve the sluggishness and mood swings that come with these conditions. And flaxseed oil. Cold pressed and unrefined flaxseed oil is good for reducing fatty liver severity and can also help reverse conditions that cause liver damage as a whole. So herbs that you can use that stimulate stagnancy back into a natural flow as far as seasonings can be rosemary, basil, bay leaf, cardamom, cumin seed, fennel seed, dill, black pepper, horseradish, various mints, and ginger. Some of these have heating natures, but they are really good if you mix them in with your foods, because the heating natures can be balanced out based how you combine your foods. Medicinal herbs that are good for your liver stagnancy in conditions like this. One is buplerium, and it's highly antioxidant. It detoxifies the liver. It helps reduce cirrhosis in conditions like hepatitis B. It's good for assisting the glucose metabolism function, therefore the blood sugar control, which inadvertently helps diabetes and eyesight. This can increase insulin release while decreasing glucose levels. So this helps regulate calcium in the liver, and also you don't want to consume this at high amounts, because this is a herb that you want to consume when you're dealing with these conditions, just to stimulate it back in the process. Herbs are used for the healing and to trigger certain body processes to help with the recovery process. Foods and diet is really what's going to heal you. Another herb is dandelion root and dandelion leaf. It's considered a nutritive, so it's really good for getting the essential nutrients that you need in the liver. It's considered a bitter, so therefore it's good for the production and excretion of bile, reducing stress on the liver and the gallbladder, and increasing enzyme levels in the liver, so therefore protecting it from oxidative stress. Nettle leaf is also a good nutritive, which is naturally cooling in nature. Dandelion and nettle leaf being cooling in nature. It contains a lot of chlorophyll. It includes, and chlorophyll is really a great nutrient for the liver. It increases fatty acid oxidation, stimulates lipid peroxidation, and also is highly anti-inflammatory. It's a detoxifying bitter and increases bile secretions, helping decongest the liver and the gallbladder and improving digestion. Turmeric is a good herb to use medicinally for this condition, because it's highly detoxifying for the liver and reduces fat accumulation. It also protects the liver during ethanol metabolism and preserves the cells during that chemical reaction. Another herb is motherwort. It's highly bitter and stimulates the secretion of bile in the liver and the gallbladder. It also stimulates the liver and the kidneys and keeps them cooler. It keeps them cooled down. It's a very cooling herb. And another one, which is a good one, is angelica root. This helps the liver and the gallbladder excrete bile smoothly and reduces the pain associated with deficiency in the liver. This helps create new blood vessels, decreases inflammation, and moistens and dries and tonifies the blood associated with blood deficiency. These herbs that I just mentioned are really good for conditions like liver stagnancy and liver heat, because they're cooling in nature and they stimulate the process of fluids moving naturally. So moving along now to liver deficiency. Liver deficiency is when the internal fluids of the liver are low and need to be enriched. This can be a result of liver stagnancy, as the blood may be constricted or not pure, and therefore nutrients and also just blood flow as a whole is not functioning properly, and this will cause deficiency of nutrients inside the liver. Lack of sufficient blood supply means that there's a lack of distribution of nutrients, like there's no flow of life, and therefore improper nutrition can lead to poor function based off of an impure blood supply. So liver yin and liver blood are similar but treated differently. Yin is mainly regarding the overall nutrition and balanced integrity of the organ. The cooling of the cooling fluids inside the organ that are produced inside for the organ to function properly, and the moist environment that it needs to function fluently. Blood as the carrier and distributor of nutrients doesn't necessarily mean that is the cause of liver yin deficiency. Blood is the carrier, but yin is the overall integrity and richness of the nutrients. If you were to think about soil, if you have dry soil and you plant seeds inside the soil, the seeds might not grow because the soil is not rich in nutrients, versus very rich fertilized soil, the plants will grow regardless of what environment or condition. So liver yin is considered to be the actual richness and abundance of nutrients and ability to absorb those nutrients inside the organ. The blood is the carrier of those nutrients. So just because blood flow may be constricted at the time, the liver yin still may be healthy, and the blood flow can be corrected and therefore maintain the liver yin's balance. So that's the difference between liver yin deficiency and liver blood deficiency, which is the two types of deficiency that you can face in the liver. So the way you heal liver yin is to rest, because yin is considered a feminine type of energy, but also yin is the internal environment integrity. So you want to get rest to heal your yin. Not only do you want to eat proper foods and get the nutrition in your body, you want to make sure the body has the time to repair itself and nurture itself. You want to get proper rest, and you want to exercise lightly. You don't want to overwork the body. So to ensure that liver yin is getting the proper nourishment and the proper treatment, you want to rest your body. You want to practice self-care practices. You want to make sure that your internal environment, mentally and physically, are getting the time to repair itself and make sure that they are functioning properly. As far as liver blood deficiency, you just want to make sure that you are meditating and you are stretching, so your blood is flowing. The fluids in your body are flowing around and getting the movement that they need. And also you want to eat certain foods and make sure you're getting that enrichment so your blood stays rich and full of nutrients. So some of the symptoms of yin deficiency are dry eyes, dry throat, night sweats, scanty menstruation, scanty menstruation, dry hair and skin, headaches, and tinnitus. Emotionally, it would be surfacing or manifesting as irritability and tension. The tongue would look kind of red without a coating. It would be kind of like a normal red, but it wouldn't have too much of a coating around it. So the foods that you would want to eat during liver deficiency is more dark leafy greens and dark red and purple berries. They're high in the nutrients that are needed for the blood to become enriched, and also to it'll have the different nutrients to basically give to the liver and provide the liver so that yin balance can be restored. Some blood deficiency symptoms are poor memory, dizziness, anxiety, eye floaters, and easily being startled, easily getting into states of anxiety. Also low focus and nervousness. The tongue will appear kind of pale and lose its pinkness. And to repair that, once again, to enrich the blood, you will want to eat more dark berries and dark leafy greens. So other symptoms overall of liver deficiency is anemia, and that's lack of nutrition and purification of the blood. So therefore the blood is damaged. General body dryness. Blood lubricates and nourishes the tissue, so if there's a deficiency and the blood is not pure, or the blood is not being distributed properly and getting those nutrients to the places that it needs, you'll notice that your body just starts to lose its lubrication, and the body starts to, and especially the liver in this case, will start to lose its vitality. You'll have palish and purple finger beds in the face, like around your face will seem pale, and you'll probably be able to see the purple veins through your skin. Your nail beds will start to look dull and not as vibrant, rich red, because nails also are a manifestation of wood health, aka the liver and the gallbladder. You'll probably see dark circles around your eyes and eye twitching. Irregular menses, because the liver is in charge of storing the blood and purifying the blood, so that's directly affecting the female menstrual cycle. As the blood in the female menstrual cycle is shedding the old blood and the impure blood, the liver plays a huge key part in that. And so if the liver is deficient, you'll start to notice that it'll be scanty periods. It'll be probably won't have as much blood during your menstruation, or you might not have any blood at all. This is when the kidneys are really need to be paid attention to as well, because during deficiency, the kidneys can definitely be affected during all these deficiencies, but during liver deficiency, the kidneys will be heavily affected because they're not getting the blood that they need to function, and the kidneys need a lot of blood to function and make sure they're filtering properly and operating properly. So when the kidneys are affected due to this condition, you'll start to see some of the symptoms are rosy red cheeks, flushed cheeks, and a highly red tongue. Highly red tongue is really a symptom of liver heat, which we'll get into next, but also deficiency can make that arise. Dry eyes as well, because the blood is not being distributed properly, and your eyes will become dry because they're not being lubricated and nourished by the blood. Insomnia, hot palms and soles, frequent thirst because of the low fluids and the low distribution of fluids, and nervousness. So when dealing with deficiency, the spleen, the pancreas, and the kidneys will most likely be affected. So all of these organs need to be paid attention to when you're dealing with conditions like deficiency. So in order to go about repairing this liver deficiency is to basically follow the same procedures as liver stagnation, as that is usually the cause of a lot of these issues. Even though it's not the main one, it usually is associated with it. You need to cut out alcohol, because alcohol damages the liver, so cut out all types of alcohol. You want to avoid over-the-counter medications, because these medications that you get from the stores and get prescribed a lot of the time suppress certain body systems, so certain symptoms don't arise. So, let's just give an example of NSAIDs or ibuprofen. When you take those, yeah, it may dull the pain, but they also are known for quelling stomach acid and quelling different secretions that you need in your body that promote healthy function. So even though it's giving you the result that you want quick and fast, it's going to cause different problems for your body over time. You want to get exercise to break through any fluid blockages or stimulate some of the blood flow. Although you don't want to over exercise when you're dealing with deficiency, because you're dealing with the deficiency of nutrients, so you'll burn yourself out. But you do want to have exercise so you can have the fluids flowing and make sure everything is moving accordingly. You want to eat foods high in omega-3 because these fats are very healthy for you. You want to incorporate healing and warming foods and herbs that stimulate liver function. So the reason you want to incorporate warming foods is because when you're dealing with symptoms like deficiency, it's associated with coldness and coolness. Like the functions are not functioning properly. So once again, like we talked about earlier, with the liver and all the chemical reactions that go on in the liver, it creates heat, and it heats the blood, and it keeps the body at a normal body temperature to function properly. When you're dealing with deficiency, those chemical reactions are not firing right, and the heat that normally will be maintained in the body is lowering. So therefore, you want to eat warming foods so you can get that body temperature back to you would be able to help the body temperature stay at the right temperature. So you also want to eat foods, but you want to eat foods at the opposite ends of the day. Dealing with deficiency, you don't want to the processes are kind of slowed down, and the processes are not operating how they should be, so you don't want to overload your body with foods. So you want to eat about 2 meals a day. You want to eat them at the opposite ends of the day. Say like you can have breakfast or food at like 11 o'clock in the afternoon, and then eat your last meal around 5 or 6 in the evening. So this will give your body the time that it needs to burn the energy that it had from the last meal of the day in the morning, and then you eat a meal, and then you'll have the time for your body to break that down and move that through the gastrointestinal tract and compartmentalize that where it needs to be before you eat the next meal, and make sure the meals don't collide. You'll have like fasting spaces in between each meal, and that'll give the body enough time to carry out the processes, also getting the nutrients that it needs. You also want to stay hydrated. So in all of these conditions, you want to stay hydrated because the body needs fluids to operate. And the foods you want to eat more dark greens and red and purple berries once again. So some of the foods that are good for this condition are, as far as grains, like barley, oats, rice, bran, and quinoa. The great veggies to eat for this condition are alfalfa sprouts, artichoke, beetroot, cabbage, celery, dark leafy greens, kelp, spinach, watercress, wheatgrass, and shiitake mushrooms. Now, a lot of these foods are cooling, but overall for the liver itself, dark leafy greens and greens in general are good for the nutrient stock that the liver needs. Excuse me. So some fruits that are good are apples or sour apples, apricots, avocados, dates, grapes, and mulberries. As far as beans, some of the good beans to eat are adzuki beans, kidney beans, black beans, lentils, and split peas. As far as fish, good fish foods or water foods to eat for this condition are oyster, tuna, octopus, mussel, trout, and wild salmon. Spices that are good for this condition are parsley, oregano, and rosemary, and ginger, turmeric as well. Some of these are heating. They have a hot nature about them, so it'll stimulate the internal environment in your liver to start heating up and keeping the deficiency from becoming too cold. Some supplements that you can use are wild blue-green algae, bee pollen, chlorophyll, and spirulina. These are good for the nutrients that you'll need to start rebuilding the liver yin. Special mentions that are really just good to eat in general are seaweed, plum, flaxseed oil, borage oil, millet, cucumber, black currant, mung beans, and collards. Now, in order to support the kidneys in this condition, because you always want to make sure that you're paying attention to the kidneys when you're dealing with any type of imbalance of the liver, but especially deficiency, aloe vera gel is really good for the kidneys. Eating that, it keeps the kidneys lubricated because of its demulcent properties, and it's good for the healing factor. So, and once again, what you want to avoid is foods like alcohol, spicy foods, greasy foods, fried foods, and processed sugars. Now, some herbs that are good for this condition, as far as kickstarting it back into action. Deficiency means that it's falling below on its function because it's not nourished properly. So you want to fill it with some energetics. So some energetics that are good to use for liver deficiency are ginseng. And you only want to use it for a short time only. You want to use it for a short period of time just to get those faculties running again. Because ginseng is good for countering the weakness and fatigue caused by deficiency, and it's best paired with nutritives. So as we said earlier, dandelion root and nettle root are good nutritives for all pretty much liver deficiency and liver imbalance conditions. So pairing ginseng, which is an energetic herb, somewhat heating, is good paired with dandelion and nettle nutritives to get that faculty running again, and also have those nutrients running into the liver as well. A good herb for this also is milk thistle. Milk thistle keeps the liver detoxified and prevents toxins from accumulating in the liver cells via a substance called silymarin. It's antioxidant due to its ability to increase glutathione, which is a powerful antioxidant, reducing cirrhosis, fatty liver, and jaundice. Silymarin is also good for helping repair cells and balance cholesterol levels. This inadvertently helps diabetes and helps gallstone passage as well. Astragalus is another adaptogen that is really good for the liver. It generally supports healthy qi flow throughout the body. Whatever the liver is the body is commander of the qi flow of the body, and astragalus directly helps with that flow. It boosts immunity, nourishment to the kidneys, and also improves circulation and performance, and it's great for overall health due to its adaptogenic properties. So adaptogens in general are, I guess you could say, the herb of accumulation, the herb of adaptability. These herbs help the body systems deal with stress and deal with changes. So whenever you're trying to repair an organ, it helps give the organ or the body the energy to be able to adjust to that type of change. So moving on to liver heat. Liver heat is when the liver is stagnant or infected and becomes inflamed. Inflammation is associated with heat. So this is a common result of overeating or improper foods like meat, cheese, eggs, dairy, processed foods, and things of that sort, generally processed and bad foods. These are not fully all bad themselves or heating themselves in nature, but these conditions these foods are overconsumed can result in these conditions. So the way liver heat is associated with liver stagnancy is when the liver is stagnant, its prolonged state of stagnancy wears down on all its systems. This causes the liver to struggle with its normal functions and repair protocols. This generates heat, and the liver begins to swell and inflame. Almost all heat conditions are associated with excess or overconsumption of intoxicants. So liver heat and liver stagnancy are usually always present at the same time, but they are not necessarily the cause of each other, but are very close and very closely related. So heat depletes the internal yin fluids, drying them out. Once again, yin being the internal balance and nourishment of and richness of the organs in the body state inside. So if you think about heat, heat evaporates water. Heat evaporates and makes liquids dissipate. So whenever you're dealing with a lot of heat, the internal fluids inside of the body get dried out. And whenever this happens, it can directly affect the kidneys as well. Because the kidneys need a lot of fluid, the kidneys need to be very hydrated, and they need a lot of blood. So whenever you're dealing with a hot condition like liver heat, it can dissipate the fluids that you need for things to run properly. And as you know, whenever things are not lubricated and there's a lot of action, it causes friction, which causes more heat, but therefore inflammation, and can cause damage. So in these cases, the kidneys themselves will have to overwork to produce these fluids for themselves to make sure they're working properly, and also pick up for the slack in the dissipated fluids that are needed in the liver as well, causing the kidneys to overwork. So making sure that the liver heat is controlled, making sure that the stagnancy is broken and kicked down, and so the flow can keep going. It's very important, and also to look at the kidneys and make sure that they're being supported, because whenever these conditions arise, the kidneys start overworking to make sure that the fluids and other things are working that the liver is falling short of. So some of the symptoms of liver heat are red eyes and a red face, chronic anger and irritability, a red tongue with a yellowish type of phlegmy coating, constipation, tinnitus, high blood pressure, temporal headaches, especially migraines, dizziness, a desire to drink cold fluids, and a general feeling of feeling hot and overheated. To repair this, it's similar to the process of liver stagnation once again. Only thing is, with the way that you repair liver stagnation, which is fasting, drinking fluids, and also eating foods that are good for the proper digestion and flow of the liver, you also have to incorporate way more cooling foods, because now you're dealing with the heat condition and you want to make sure that your internal environment is not overheating. And when it becomes really hot, there's a condition called liver wind. And if you think about whenever heat rises and cold sinks, so if the environment is generally cold or balanced and there's more heat, you're going to think about how heat rises, and that'll give a problem, that'll cause a problem for different systems. So outside, if there's a forest burning and you see all the smoke, you see the smoke blowing throughout the sky and stuff like that. But you also notice that there's a lot of wind in the area, and that's because with the heat rising, it's causing eruptions and disruptions in the atmosphere, causing wind to blow around. And as you can see, the environment is affected. Trees are blowing and things are blowing around and stuff like that. So in the body systems, it's similar, because whenever the liver is really hot, the liver wind is associated with the overheat that is rising and going to different parts of the body, which can throw off different systems. We can talk about liver wind in a later video, but that's just a good basis of what liver wind is, and it can be a result of liver heat, and liver heat also being a result of liver stagnancy, as you can see how these conditions can piggyback off of each other. So some of the foods, once again, to eat are similar to liver stagnancy, but we'll go over some of them again, and some of them that are specifically good for liver heat conditions. Watercress, alfalfa sprouts, citrus fruits, celery, seaweed, rhubarb, spinach, mushrooms, mustard leaves, and cabbage. As far as grains, you want to eat amaranth, you want to eat barley, you want to eat millet, and quinoa if you choose to eat the grains. Fruits that are good for that condition are mangoes, papayas, pears, bananas, strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, pineapples, apples, and melons, all various melons that are high in water content. These fruits are intend to be cooling in nature, which are really good for this condition. Also, proteins that you want to eat, as far as plant proteins, are walnuts, almonds, and macadamia nuts that are cooling in nature. Proteins also that you can eat, beans as well, are bean curd, mung beans, and black beans. In this condition, you want to stay hydrated, especially with cooling fruits. So you want to eat, drink raw fruit juices. You know, there's a good recipe that is going around a lot too right now, and that's a watermelon mint juice. Mint is really cooling in nature, and so is watermelon. So if you mix that together in a raw form and drink that, that's really good for keeping the system cool as well. So some herbs that you want to use for the liver heat condition are cooling herbs and demulcent herbs, because heat, once again, dissipates the liquid fluidity and moistened environment of these organs. So a good herb to use is chickweed. It cools down an overheated liver, and especially when it's caused by overdrinking or pharmaceutical damages that tend to overwork the liver. It is moistening, mucilaginous, the demulcent property, thus helping the kidneys and the bladder as well by replacing dissipated fluids. This helps the thyroid by stimulating metabolism and countering hypo and hyperthyroidism, which can help your body's water retention issues and digestive issues that may come from this unbalanced condition. Another herb you can use is marshmallow root. It's very highly demulcent, which helps coat and soothe all the systems, thus helping the kidneys stay lubricated and heated in heated conditions, liquid dispersing conditions. It coats the GI tract and assists in constipation and helps cool red eyes resulting from a heated liver. So marshmallow root is really good for the coating factor when the liquids are dissipated and you know that you're dealing with constipation, or you notice that you're dealing with the red eyes and overall heat and probably scanty urine from the dissipated fluids in the body. You can use chickweed and marshmallow root for the nutrients and also the demulcent properties to balance and back up the liver, the kidneys, and the bladder from being dehydrated while you're taking fluids as well. Another herb to use that's really good is chrysanthemum, which is highly cooling and benefits a heated liver. It helps detox the liver and helps calm eye disorders associated with this imbalance. It's hypertensive, thus lowers high blood pressure, helping the heart, and also helps conditions that are affected by liver wind, as we just spoke, when the liver is overheated and that heat travels to different parts of the body, throwing off the different body systems. It's good for balancing that out. So here we're going to talk about how the organs depend on each other. And in a traditional Chinese medicine approach, how each organ system, an organ pair, is associated with an element in nature, and how our body systems internally mirror the elements out there in nature, and how, looking at the example of nature, we can find balance within ourselves by applying those healing factors and healing observations. So the kidneys are considered the mother of the liver. As the liver heat rises, liver yin depletes. Once again, heat dissipates fluids, so therefore heat dissipates yin. So the kidneys have to work harder to stay hydrated, and the kidneys become depleted as they require more blood to function. So you best believe if the liver is congested or not functioning properly, the kidneys will directly be affected. So in cases of liver stagnancy or liver heat or liver deficiency, the fluids that are needed will be dissipated, or the blood will not be rich enough or abundant enough to reach the kidneys for them to function properly, causing them to produce more fluids and work harder to maintain their own internal balance. The controlling cycle of the liver is associated with earth being penetrated by wood. If you look outside and look at the earth is foundational, but every plant, every tree has its roots rooted in the earth. That's the penetrating factor of earth, wood penetrating earth. So the liver in excess or heat can disrupt the spleen, the pancreas, and the stomach. The spleen, the pancreas, and the stomach are associated with the earth element. The lack of purified blood flowing to these organs harms their performance, potentially causing bowel inflammation, infection, diabetes, gas or indigestion, and many more problems. The spleen and pancreas directly affect digestion, imbalances, leading the way to colitis, IBS, infection, which often is traced back to the liver being overloaded and stressed out or overfed people. So, wood being associated with the liver and the gallbladder, producing bile into the digestive tract, but also the liver producing the healthy, purified blood that the organs need to function properly. If the liver is imbalanced, the proper blood and purified blood cannot reach the spleen and the pancreas and the stomach, the earth element, therefore hindering their function. So the stomach cannot produce gastric juices like it's supposed to, or mash up the food into chyme like it's supposed to. And when it's passed on to the GI tract, the spleen and the pancreas are not producing the enzymes that they're supposed to produce that aid in digestion. So therefore, digestion itself is impaired and not functioning properly, which causes more problems in neighboring organ systems to suffer. And this is the example of earth being penetrated by wood and causing destruction in the earth because the wood is not functioning properly. Moving on to the creative cycle. Wood feeds fire. So if wood is chopped down, people use wood for fire. People use wood to stay warm. So in cases of liver stagnancy, it can cause disruptions in the heart by disrupting the flow of qi, which qi being carried by the blood to the heart. This can give rise to various vascular diseases. The heart is considered the son of the liver, because the liver, once again storing purified blood, distributes blood to the heart. So the kidneys being the mother of the liver, the filtration aspect to get the toxins out of the body and excrete them out, but it's heavily affected by the liver because the liver, it depends on the liver for blood as well. And the heart being considered the son of the liver because the liver directly fuels the heart with nourished blood to make sure it is nourished and actually carries out its pumping function. This is exemplified by wood feeding fire. Fire being the heart. The heart and the small intestines are the organ pair, but the heart in general is associated with fire. So therefore, wood, liver, purified blood feeds the fire of the pumping heart to keep you alive. So, in traditional Chinese medicine, quote is, an excessive or greedy liver not only steals from its mother, the kidneys, but is stingy and refuses to nourish its son, the heart. In order to balance this, you must strengthen the heart in order to receive energy and nourishment. And by strengthening the heart, it will encourage the liver to release its excess, which in turn takes the stress away from the kidneys, the mother. This is an example of interrelationships of how the organs are interdependent on each other and how to maintain and reclaim balance in the organs. Hopefully this video was informative for you. Hopefully it wasn't too lengthy, but just to give the public a general rundown of liver conditions that a lot of people deal with and how to take healing back into their own hands using an energetic approach and a physical approach. So if there's any information that I missed that you feel the people in the comments would benefit from, go ahead and put it in the comments. If you want to ask me a question personally, you can put it in the comments as well, or you can reach out to me in the email that I dropped in the description. If you would like to check out my website where I make herbal formulations and supplementations, you can go to the website that I put in the description as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope this video was informative for you. And if you like this content, please join me on the next one. You guys have a good one.